Will Levis has been ruled out for the 2025 season. The Titans report to training camp on Tuesday, July 22nd, and this is our final training camp preview. We're going to hit the Will Levis news, what we're looking for from Cam Ward. Will L'Jarius Sneed show up? The wide receiver rotation. There's so many big storylines to follow at training camp. We're going to hit them now. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. Justin, full disclosure to the audience. Let's just get it out of the way right off the top here. We recorded our final training camp preview episode yesterday, and then this morning, Monday morning, the news comes out that Will Levis will miss the 2025 season after undergoing shoulder surgery, and we figured we'd better hop on and record a new top of show so that we can react to this news and analyze it from our perspectives, and then I'll toss it at the end of this little, I don't know how long it's going to be, 5 minutes or so, conversation on Levis and the Titans quarterback situation. We'll toss it to the rest of the podcast we already recorded, talking about what we're looking for from Cam Ward's progress, the wide receiver snap share, L'Jarius Sneed, Femi Oladejo and his contract situation, and what we're looking for from him at training camp. And we're also going to talk about special teams. I'm not exactly sure how the transition is going to be when we toss it to the rest of the pod, but I wanted our audience to know that we are hopping on here on a day that we thought we wouldn't be recording to do this. So how's it going?
We're dedicated to, you're going to see our shirts change midway through this episode because, as you said, recording on different days. But let's get the Will Levis news out of the way. News breaks Monday morning, kind of, unexpectedly, that he's undergoing season-ending shoulder surgery. This is pretty interesting. Ian Rappaport puts this tweet out. I think he was first, and then, of course, everyone follows suit. But a couple of minutes later, the team releases a statement. And to me, immediately, as someone who knows how to read the tea leaves, it indicated that maybe the Titans weren't fully on board with this decision. It sounded like Will Levis, and now we know, that Will Levis, started kind of seeking medical advice from outside the organization regarding this issue. And his representatives, being his agency, was included in this decision. Of course, he signed to CAA football, the most powerful agency in the sport. Debatable, I guess, but probably the most powerful agency in the sport. And reading, that was my opinion, reading the tea leaves. Well, that became fact, where we know it's fact when, Teron Davenport tweeted out saying, this is a Will Levis decision. It's interesting to me. If I had to guess now, the team probably felt like the shoulder situation was not bad enough to undergo season-ending surgery, right? Like it's probably a thing that's bothering him. It's lingering. You're in July, right? Like there's plenty of time to sort of, get healthy and get ready. Get ready for what? To play in preseason a little bit, take some training camp reps, try to get traded during that portion of it. But, in all honesty, like everyone's going to hate Will Levis for this. I could also understand, it's a selfish decision. It's a me first decision, but he's kind of got to put himself first at some point, right? Because he knows his future's not here, right? Like, they drafted his replacement, obviously, in Cam Ward. He knows his next opportunity is going to make or break his career, right? Like, it's either he takes advantage of the next opportunity or maybe he's not even in the NFL, right? Like, that's life-changing amount of money that's on the table from one spectrum, one side of it to the other. So for him, he's going, F this place, F these guys. I'm not going to be here. I might as well get as healthy as I possibly can when my next opportunity comes. If I'm in training camp, if I'm playing in the preseason, I'm playing through some sort of shoulder pain that might hamper my performance, that would certainly then turn around and hamper a level of interest that I'm going to be met with, right? So it's definitely a me first decision. It's one the team doesn't agree with, but he's like, well, F off. You drafted the quarterback number 1 overall. I got to think of what comes next.
Yeah, I'm going to read the statements here. So this was the original breaking news report from Ian Rappaport. Titans quarterback Will Levis will undergo surgery on his throwing shoulder. Sources say ending his 2025 season. Surgery is July 29th. It's rare that they include the specific exact date that's over a week away that the surgery will be taking place. Levis has elected to have the procedure to ensure long-term health based on medical opinions, one that should help him be ready for the 2026 season. And then the statement from the Titans, After consulting with doctors and his representatives, Will Levis has decided to undergo shoulder surgery that will sideline him for the entire 2025 season. We support his decision to focus on his long-term health. He approached the offseason with professionalism and showed clear growth as a leader. We remain confident in his full recovery. Let me just translate this. Let me translate this real quick into what they actually thought and how they spun it into a PR statement. After consulting with doctors and his representatives, Will Levis has decided, even though we didn't like this decision and didn't want him to do it, to undergo shoulder surgery that will sideline him for the... We don't think he needs to be sidelined for the entire 2025 season. We support his decision, aka we still want to trade him when he's healthy, and therefore we're going to put out a very positive statement about how he approached the offseason with professionalism and showed clear growth as a leader so that some other team out there this time next year will still want to trade for him after he made a selfish decision like this one that might reflect poorly on his teammate-ness and leadership, but we don't want that to cost us the ability to trade him next offseason, so we're going to pretend like we're all good with this decision. That's my translation.
I don't think it's just that. I mean, you probably bring up a good point, but I think it's like they can't fully throw him under the bus. It's just not the way things work, right? So it's like, this is our best way. It's a phenomenal statement. It's a masterclass, and this is our best way of still looking professional, kind of maintaining a expected level of professionalism while making it clear, hint, hint, read between the lines, that we don't think he needs this and we don't agree with this decision.
I do think that for Will Levis, like you said, I don't care. Like, if he wants to do this, if he thinks this is what's best for his future, then by all means, Will, go do this. Like, to his credit, he was not going to play a part in the 2025 Titans season. They were going to try to trade. They were going to try to trade him, and if they couldn't trade him, he was going to be a backup that you hope never has to see the field. Now, he was going to get a chance to showcase what he's improved on, I guess, in preseason. He won't get that chance now. He'll have to wait a year to get that. But if he thinks this is the best way to prolong his career and get another opportunity, maybe down the line to be a starter somewhere, this is the only real choice that he could make. So I'm okay with this from Will Levis' standpoint, but what does it mean for the Titans? There's two big sort of ripple effects of this. And number one is that Cam Ward still hasn't been named the starting quarterback. We talked about this last Thursday on the quarterback podcast, last Thursday evening, Friday. That should accelerate this process. I mean, Cam Ward's not realistically competing. First of all, he was never realistically competing anyway. He was always going to be named the starter at some point. This accelerates that because now what are you going to sell to your team and to your fan base and to the media that Cam Ward is competing with Brandon Allen to win the starting quarterback job? I mean, give me a break. Tim Boyle, like, that's not going to happen. So I don't know if this changes when Callahan actually will announce it, but it's going to, it's more of a foregone conclusion than it was before, and it was already a foregone conclusion. Right. Number two big ripple effect is the Titans only have 3 quarterbacks on the roster now, with Will Levis presumably moving to IR soon, which means they're probably going to add a 4th quarterback because we've talked about it on the show. Mike Borgonzi, historically in Kansas City, always liked having 4 quarterbacks around. The Titans were planning to enter this training camp and preseason time with 4 quarterbacks on the roster before, obviously, Will Levis gets surgery. So the free agent quarterbacks that are on the market right now, it's not a very inspiring list. Carson Wentz, CJ Beathard, Teddy Bridgewater, Jeff Driscoll, Tyler Huntley, Logan Woodside, and Jake Fromm.
Now, realistically, Logan Woodside.
Yes. Now, he was just released the other day when the Bengals added Desmond Ridder. Now, full disclosure, I don't think any of these guys comes in and beats out Brandon Allen for the backup quarterback job. Even if Carson Wentz, came into the league with a lot more talent, Teddy Bridgewater has some veteran knowledge and also was a former first-round pick. But none of these guys know the Titans offense at all, and they're not going to learn it in a month to be able to help coach Cam Ward at the level that Brandon Allen will be able to, which is the whole point of having him on the roster. It's not to go in and try to win a game if Cam Ward gets hurt. It's to help Cam Ward be the best quarterback he can be, and the Titans are okay if their backup quarterback is not good because they don't want to win games that Cam Ward misses anyway. We've already talked about all this on the show. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these guys end up on the roster. I think you're much better off if you're just looking for a 4th camp arm to add one of these guys versus going out and trading for a Jameis Winston because you feel like you need a high-level backup, or even a Jake Browning because he has history with Brian Callahan. It's like, again,
could the Bengals release Browning after signing Desmond Ritter? I mean, maybe
they could,
not.
but not before the end of training camp, and maybe that happens. But even so, like Desmond Ritter is the guy that they signed for the role that we're talking about right now. Desmond Ritter's not going in there and unseating anybody. Desmond Ritter is bad, like we've talked about. Right. I mean, that was a huge thing on this show pre-draft before he was drafted. But Desmond Ritter is not a good quarterback. So I think the Titans are going to add a free agent fourth arm. They shouldn't. If they do this, I will not be very happy. They shouldn't go spend draft capital to acquire somebody that isn't going to play a factor in this season. Like, again, if you are not about to go win the Super Bowl, you don't need a good backup quarterback because you don't need to keep winning those games while Cam Ward is out. So, and this isn't the year, but anyway, yeah, take it.
Yeah. I'll say this. I'm not quite as confident as you are that no one can come in here and dethrone Brandon Allen. Again, we've been operating under the assumption that they were going to trade Will Levis, and I still think they probably were going to. But we don't know that for fact, right? Like, maybe I'm playing devil's advocate here, but like maybe Will Levis and Brandon Allen were going to compete. I don't know, maybe, right? We'll never know now. Like Carson Wentz, I don't love Carson Wentz, but he's not Tim Boyle, right? Like he's not just a fourth training camp arm. Like if they brought Carson Wentz in, he's a better quarterback than Brandon Allen. In all honesty, he is. So, like if it's Carson Wentz, maybe he pushes Brandon Allen and maybe he beats it. I don't think it would take Carson Wentz a ton of time to learn the offense. Yeah, Allen has a seat up. He's played in the offense before, but like Carson Wentz has been around. Teddy Bridgewater comes in and picks up this offense in a week.
Well, he's a coach now. Like he understands football at a high level.
It depends on the level of guy they bring in. Now they might just bring in another Tim Boyle, and that's my point.
They're not going to go sign Carson Wentz because they know that he actually puts pressure on that number 2 job, and possibly, I mean, not really Cam Ward, but possibly in a world they could spin it to where he's doing that.
But my point is, if their plan was, like, we disagree with it, but if their plan was for Will Levis and Allen to legitimately compete, which it could have been, like, we don't know for a fact that wasn't their plan. Yes, I agree. I thought they were going to trade him, but if that was their plan, then they might feel some, initiative to go get someone who could actually push Brandon. I don't care either way, to be honest with you. It's like, but I'm not comfortable operating under the assumption that Brandon Allen is glued to that number 2 job. And either way, it shouldn't make a difference, but we'll see who they bring in. Is it a Tim Boyle level quarterback or is it a Carson Wentz?
I would say I appreciate your perspective and acknowledging all possibilities there, but I'm pretty confident based on what we've heard behind the scenes that they were planning to trade Will Levis and that they probably won't be looking for a competent level backup quarterback, because I really think their plan is hope that Cam Ward stays healthy. And worst case scenario, if he doesn't stay healthy, we end up with a high draft pick the same way Callahan's Bengals did it the year after drafting Joe Burrow and then landing at number 5 overall to draft Jamar Chase the following season. I don't think that they're planning to do that, but that's their worst case scenario if something bad were to happen to Cam Ward. So, I think that's pretty much all we've got to talk about here. I mean, there is a chance that Will Levis didn't want to be traded yet and said, I'm going to get this surgery and make myself untradeable. I don't think that's necessarily what happened, but that could be one of the reasons that the team is a little upset that he got this surgery, or not upset, but didn't agree with his decision to do so, because now he is decidedly untradeable until he's healthy again. So that's just another wrinkle to all this. I think that covers everything we needed to pick up here, Justin. We can toss it to the pre-recorded Monday episode now, covering Titans trading camp storylines. What do you say? Any final thoughts on Will Levis, or are we done with this?
No, I think that'll do it. Let's get into the episode we actually plan to release today.
Yeah, so a funny story. Cam was actually my roommate for minicamp and just the OTAs, because, the rookies are in the hotel and have a roommate. So just seeing Cam being consistent, waking up at 5 o'clock every day, and going straight to the facility and doing that on a consistent basis. And then just being someone who doesn't have a big ego. You would think someone that's the first overall pick is kind of like big-headed and prideful, but he's very humble, grounded, and he loves ball. So I'm very excited to see how he leads us, and I'm ready to be right behind him.
Justin, it's finally here. It is training camp week. We are going to preview training camp before we actually have a chance to talk about it, because although it is training camp week, we're recording this, it's Monday afternoon now when this pod comes out, so we haven't actually got any training camp to talk about, but we do have storylines that interest us. How's it going?
Doing well. Yeah, it's finally here. Titans report to training camp tomorrow, Tuesday, July 22nd, and they'll have their first practice on Wednesday, July 23rd. We're about to ramp up the content schedule. We're going to have so much to talk about here as the training camp practices end. We'll be having episodes every single practice as soon as we get that information to sort of recap. And I'm just so excited that it's finally here. Football is officially back.
Football is back, baby, and that was Femi Oladejo, Titans' second-round pick on Good Morning Football. He was on that show Friday morning talking about his quarterback. Justin, are the Titans finally getting the attention and respect for having the number one overall pick they deserve? You had Jeffrey Simmons on Good Morning Football earlier in the week talking about how the Titans don't get attention, and Cam Ward specifically. You have Femi Oladejo going on there, and we'll get to Femi as part of our storylines to watch here in a little bit, but it's nice. I mean, it's kind of nice as a Titans fan to scroll your Twitter timeline and see some clips of Titans players on Good Morning Football, because nobody's actually watching Good Morning Football, but we are watching the clips of it when they come across our timeline.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As you said, back-to-back appearances, essentially. Jeffrey Simmons, Femi Oladejo. Look, everyone can feel it, right? This is the most exciting training camp in Titans history, in my opinion.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if that sounds like hyperbole to you, but they've never had a number one overall quarterback before. Cam Ward's the first in franchise history. So yes, to me, this is the most exciting training camp in Titans history.
Alrighty then. If it's so exciting, then we must have some exciting storylines to talk about. So let's dive into them. But first, Justin, we messed up. And by we, I really mean I. I messed up more than you, because on our final podcast of last week, I said, that's it. We did it. We talked through every position on the Titans roster. We hit all 91 guys. And that's actually not true.
You're
one of our very most
lie.
I wouldn't call it that, but one of our most loyal listeners, David Jenkins, dropped it in the comments on the last pod that we never talked special teams. We never mentioned Joey Sly, Johnny Hecker, or Morgan Cox. And it's actually an interesting group because it's almost completely revamped from where they were last year. You have a new special teams coordinator who comes in, wants to get his own people. So before we dive into the storylines, let's quickly talk about what's different on special teams. Nick Folk, out. Ryan Stonehouse, out. Joey Sly, in. Johnny Hecker, in. I want to talk about Stonehouse first because I think that's the more interesting one. It was interesting because Stonehouse was a good punter, especially his rookie year. We were like excited that the Titans found their... It was like, this is their punter for the next 10 to 15 years. And then, he's out after just a few seasons. And I think there was a lot made about the hang time issue. On Titan special teams, we've talked a lot about the personnel issues they had and the decisions they made on roster cutdown day to just keep 5 tight ends and let some core special teamers go. And the special teams coverage was terrible for the first 1/2 to 3/4 of the season before they finally started figuring stuff out down the stretch. It was too late at that point. And the Titans bring in a new punter who John Bones Fossil has worked with in the past, and you expect that tells you how they felt about Stonehouse last year, and that maybe like having a guy who can punt it 80 yards isn't necessarily the best way to go if that guy can't control the direction and the hang time of that 80-yard punt. So Titans bring in a new punter. I'm not like that interested because hopefully we see way less punts this year with Cam Ward on the field, but it is worth at least mentioning as we head into camp here.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say, you get the impression that the Titans brass felt that Ryan Stonehouse outpunted the coverage at times. And it's probably safe to assume that Bones Fossil agreed with that, right? I don't think this change happens if Bones Fossil doesn't not only sign off on it, but maybe spearhead it even, right? Like, very intentional to bring in a punter that he's familiar with in Johnny Hecker. So again, I think they kind of probably were all in agreement here that the hang time was a serious issue and prevented, the coverage from maybe playing to its maximum effort and capabilities. I'll quickly move on to kicker because this is the one that intrigues me even more, in all honesty, because certainly Nick Folk was getting up there in age, but he's money from 40 yards, right? Like really the most accurate kicker in the NFL over the past couple of seasons, and the numbers back that up. A bit of a controversial decision. Yes, he probably had 1 year left, right? Like I can't see him playing past this season if Titans decided to retain him, so that does play a role. But you look at Joey Sly, who they bring in, big leg kicker, but not the most accurate, has not been a very accurate kicker over these past couple of years. So you assume they're downgrading in the accuracy department, but upgrading in the distance department. TBD on that decision. If this guy goes out and is an 80% kicker and 82%, like that's not good enough, right? So we know Bones has worked with some big leg kickers, like obviously Brandon Aubrey in Dallas. What a find that was. So he certainly has a type and a preference, and I think that's behind the decision to bring Joey Sly in. But I'm not, overly confident that it's going to prove to be a good decision. So, and they might catch some flack for it if they go out and miss a bunch of makeable kicks. So we'll see. Not a lot to say on Morgan Cox.
Whoa, let me talk about Joey Sly. So I do think there's something interesting there when you talk about his percentage, and it's, it depends where those misses are coming from. Because if all those misses are 50 plus, and it's like he's missing more because he's trying more difficult kicks than what Nick Folk was even allowed to go out there and try, then I think it doesn't matter. And then there's also the trade-off of like, does he miss a handful more kicks inside 40 yards that you would consider very makeable field goals, but also adding the ability to hit a 59-yarder, a 61-yarder that you wouldn't even try with Folk? How does that trade-off work? It's like, yeah, you lose some kicks that you would have made, but you have the opportunity to kick some kicks and make them that you would have just been punting in the past without Joey Sly. So I think that is an interesting trade-off to look at. And then Morgan Cox, the only thing to say about Morgan Cox is that he's the best long snapper in football. In fact, he's the best long snapper of the last 25 years, according to the ESPN All-Quarter Century team, which put Morgan Cox as the long snapper. So no reason to replace him. They replaced 2/3 of the specialists here, but not the guy who's named to the ESPN All-Quarter Century team. I don't even know how you figure that out for a long snapper, but hey, it's cool that he's a Titan.
Well, yeah, again, nothing to add on Morgan Cox, best in the business. You saw me leaning in there, browsing my computer for a second. I wanted to look it up. Joey Sly, 40 of 52 from 40 to 49 throughout his career. So he's missed he only attempted 7 of them last year, and he missed 2 of them. So not great. And he missed 2 the year before as well during a small sample size. So
what's his longest made field goal, and what's his 50 plus kicking make miss?
Now I got to pull it back up. Thanks for that.
You close the window. How do you close the window?
I closed the windows. I didn't think you were going to ask me anything. He was 6 of 9 last year from 50. So 50 plus, which is pretty good, right? He made a 63-yarder last year and a 61-yarder the year before. So there's no denying the big. It seems like from 40 to 50 or 50 plus, it's the same thing, right, in terms of the unpredictability when it comes to him throughout his career. At least he's been 41 of 43 from 30 to 39. So pretty money from there. But as soon as you get to 40 to 49, it seems like it's tossing a coin almost, and same thing from 50 plus. But that big percentage from 50 plus is very impressive.
Yeah, and it gives you confidence that, again, a 60-yarder, you can go out there and try it, which you would have never done with Nick Folk. And that's like, again, that's saving a possession. The difference between punting it from there and hoping to pin them deep versus putting points on the board and kicking off. It's like a whole that could add 30 points to the team over the course of the season, which could end up being the difference in some wins and losses. So we like that stat.
So can make missed kicks could also be the difference between wins and losses. So. But enough about special teams. David, we got you, Mr. Jenkins. We did about 7 minutes. We're not going to give you a whole episode, obviously, but we did about 7 minutes on the special teams. Now we've officially talked about all 91 players on the roster.
Very well done by us, Justin. Round of applause. As we get into our camp storylines to watch, here we have in my opinion, 5 biggest storylines for training camp. And this is really going to apply to like the first week or 2 of training camp. And then we'll get it, we'll have more storylines that emerge throughout. But number 1 is Cam Ward. And I know we did our last podcast. Our last full podcast was about the quarterbacks, and we spent more than half of that on Cam Ward. We just dropped a video yesterday. If you missed it, go watch it on Cam Ward using VR. So it's not like we haven't talked about Cam Ward, but there's a couple little interesting things that we haven't discussed as much that I think are going to be big storylines. One that we have discussed, which is obvious, is just like the progress check every single day. You know, there's going to be beat writer, probably Jim Wyatt and maybe others out there who are going to be tracking his completion percentage throughout training camp. We're going to get clips all over Twitter, which are going to blow up every Titans fan's timeline. We might get a lot more Trader Joe's memes, which, you know, we love the memes, Trader Joe's memes, especially if you don't understand that joke, then you're just not online enough, and maybe you're a healthier person than me. But that's the number one thing with Cam Ward, is just like, how does he look? Is he making progress on a daily basis? How bad are the bad days? How good are the good days? And I have more to say on Cam Ward that I'll be looking for, but that's the big one, obviously.
Yeah, and some of the other things I'll throw in there that we touched on briefly, it's like that Wednesday practice, which we'll be back to recap just a few days from now. What do the reps look like? The split of reps, right? Like, is it right from the get-go? Does Brian Callahan intend on playing this, dragging this out a little bit longer and saying, hey, he got, half of the first team reps, or even 3/4, and Will Levis got the other quarter or whatever it is.
Right.
That'll be worth monitoring. But again, to me, it's the daily progress. How much is he going to play in the preseason? I mean, we're not going to find that out on Wednesday or Thursday, but preseason's, that first game's coming up pretty quick. We're like 3 weeks away, not even, give or take. So, that'll be a storyline worth monitoring. Just, again, to me, how I want to summarize this, and I'll say it, what I said at the beginning, in my opinion, this is the most exciting training camp in Titans history, and that is because of the presence of Cam Ward, the first ever number 1 overall quarterback in franchise history. If I'm tuned in before, boy, I'm going to be tuned in now, now that they've got the top overall pick at QB making his training camp debut on Wednesday.
Yeah, to build on your point there, like I'm the preseason stuff really intrigues me, and this isn't one that's going to be settled in the first 2 weeks. I just said the storylines will be for the first 2 weeks of training camp. Obviously, this one's not, but it's just like how many games does he start? How many series does he play? I guess like it's just something I'm going to be tracking because it tells you maybe a little bit of how ready they feel he is. If they're throwing him out there a lot, then it's like we want to get him. I mean, it could mean either way. It could mean like we want to get him as ready as possible for week 1. But if he starts a game and then he doesn't play the next 2 or something, which I don't know what to even expect. I guess I expect to see him in 2 games and then probably not the 3rd. But if he only plays 1, then it's like, oh, they feel like he's ready. Like,
but even if he gets a whole half in one of the games, to be honest with you, I think even that would make me question if there are some quiet concerns or how ready you know what I mean? Because a whole half feels like a bit much to me for a number 1 overall pick. Even rookie, you want him to play, you could make that argument, yada yada. But to me, I don't think it would be a great sign if he gets an entire half in that first game or second game, for example.
Yeah, a whole half is a funny little couple of words there.
Yeah.
It's an oxymoron.
An entire half.
Whole half. An entire half. I like that. All right, we have other storylines to talk about, but real quick, I should remind everyone watching that we really appreciate your support of the channel, and the best thing you can do to help the channel is like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in a comment below. How many preseason games do you think Ward's going to play? How much do you want him to play? Are you excited to see him play? So you're kind of trying to balance, like I want him to play all 3 games fully so I can watch him play football, but I also want him to be ready for the season and not get hurt, so I don't want that. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And shout out to Sinkers Beverages. They got the 40th birthday Jamboree coming up Saturday, August 9th. You can get your tickets to that in the description below. We've talked a lot about Sinkers' 40th birthday Jamboree, and we're very excited for it coming up Saturday, August 9th, 5:30 p.m. Just $10 to get in the door. Gives you 2 free drinks with that purchase. All right, Justin. The second biggest storyline to me, and honestly, I don't really know how to put these in order, these next 4 that we have, because they're all big. But the most exciting second biggest storyline to me is how are the wide receiver reps split up in camp, and how fast are these rookies coming for Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson's jobs? Or is it not even Van Jefferson? Is it Bryce Oliver who gets the first crack at the starting X spot? Or is it we've been so impressed with Alec Iamanair and all the stuff he did in the spring, and we know he's been working hard and working with his quarterback throughout this summer break. So we're going to throw him out there for some first team X reps. And how soon into training camp do those first team reps start going to some of the rookies? I want to let you finish, but the other big important, fun, interesting part of the receiver room is where is Xavier Restrepo in the pecking order? Does he look like a guy who's guaranteed to make the roster when training camp starts? Or does he look like a guy battling for one of the last few spots? All of this, everything to do with the receiver room, from how is Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley's connection to how much are the veterans taking snaps from the young guys to when are the young guys coming on to where's Xavier Restrepo and how does Bryce Oliver fit into all of it? I mean, there's a storyline. We could do a whole podcast on wide receiver storylines. And we did last week.
Yeah, you quickly on Alec Iomanner. I'm going to not take a second to plug something because 5 minutes before we started recording this, as you know, I just got off the phone with Alec Iomanner. I've been working on something I'm so excited about. It's going to publish Wednesday, 2 days from today, if you're watching this on the day it published, Monday. On Wednesday, the 23rd, which is the first practice, very intentional on my part, Wednesday morning, before they hit the practice field, I've got a 2,000-word story publishing on Alec Iomanner's journey from Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada, to the Tennessee Titans. And I covered the whole thing. I spoke. Alec Iomanner is the second.
Sorry, I had to ding you. This is a Melo cliche. This is a new thing we're doing on the show. When a Melo cliche drops, I will hit the ding bell.
What?
And you can continue. Sorry. Just the whole, I got a story coming up. I talked to Alec Iomanner. It's not a bad cliche. It's a very Melo thing.
Alec Iomanner is the second guy from his hometown to ever make it to the NFL. So not only did I speak to him about that, I spoke to the scout in Canada who discovered him at like 11 years old and got him to D1. Like, I literally cover Alec Iomanner's journey in this piece from beginning to right now, told through the eyes of Alec himself, and I tracked down the scout, who not only discovered him, but discovered Chase Brown, Sidney Brown, like a bunch of really successful Canadian NFLers. Josh Palmer in the league right now. So can't wait to release that on Wednesday morning. On this rotation, you bastard.
Round of applause for your hard work. Sorry, go ahead.
He's having fun with the buttons right now, ladies and gentlemen. He's like a child. You can't leave him alone.
Our Heed the Call listeners, any overlap between MCA audience and the Heed the Call audience will understand where these sound effects come from. Anyway, keep going.
About the receiver storylines, I mean, for me, all the ones you mentioned, but I'll go a little deeper. Like, a guy like Tyler Lockett, like me personally, I know he's a seasoned pro and ready to go, but after essentially not doing anything at OTAs and minicamp, and the fact that he's turning 33 and is facing some competition for his spot, I don't know about you, but I want him out there all the time, essentially. Like, yes, you're going to mix in the occasion. I'm going to contradict myself. You'll mix in the occasional rest day, but not from the get-go, right? Like, I want him building his chemistry with Cam Ward. I want him fending off competition from Xavier Restrepo and even Chimere Dike, who I think is going to get a lot more reps in the slot than most realize. So that's one of the things I'll be watching. How much is Tyler Lockett involved? Does he look good? How much does he have left in the tank? Essentially what you mentioned. Is he fending off the rookies? Same goes for Van Jefferson. Is he first in the pecking order at X? Is it Alec Iomanner? You didn't even, how quickly does Traylon Burks get healthy and into that mix, if at all? Bryce Oliver, how does he work his way into this pecking order? Because he wasn't getting a ton of reps.
At OTAs.
OTAs and whatnot. And when he did, he maximized, right? He had that one practice where he had a 3 touchdown day. So that to me is really the story. And that, I don't got to mention the rookies because all those involve the rookies, right? Because if it's not Van Jefferson or Bryce Oliver, then it's Alec Iomanner. If it's not Tyler Lockett, then it's Restrepo or Chimere Dike. So really just seeing how this pecking order shakes out. And for me, the Tyler Lockett one's been under discussed. Like, I want him out there pretty consistently.
And I think that, one of the things that we've sort of all taken as just like this is going to happen as fact is that Tyler Lockett will play the slot. And yeah, maybe he will spend most of his time in the slot, but I'll be curious to see not just the reps, but the roles that they're deploying these guys in during camp. Like, we've all just assumed, Calvin Ridley's going to go back to his natural position of Z. Tyler Lockett's going to play the slot. And Van Jefferson and Bryce Oliver and Alec Iomanner are your X guys. But is there a world where Tyler Lockett bumps out and plays some X and puts Calvin Ridley at the Z and DK gets on the field in the slot, or Restrepo I want to see if they're all sort of sticking in a role. Who is more often being used more versatile? Like, I think we expect DK to move all around the formation, but how much do all these guys move around the formation? And any reports we get on that front, that is as interesting to me as the rep, because that kind of determines how you can split the reps, is how many different roles each of these guys can play.
I'll quickly say that I think you bring up a great point, and I think it's very much within the realm of possibility. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of the thought of Lockett at X, Ridley at Z, and then one of the rookies, Restrepo or DK at slot, because like someone's got to be able to win a contested catch situation, ideally, right? Like and then on top of it, you got guys like Ridley and Lockett who offer you nothing after the catch. We'll see what Restrepo and they're not big yards after catch guys. They're not, and I
feel like Ridley can give you some juice after
they're
the catch.
Not
he's
great,
not gonna
like fighting through contact. Like there's just so many things that there's so many things I don't like.
Fast. He's so fast that he can get away from a guy after he makes a catch.
Absolutely, of course he can. But
he can win a contested ball too.
I just think maybe I'm a little old school. I like a traditional X out there, and that's not Tyler Lockett by any stretch of the imagination. That lineup, I think it's small, right? It's kind of small. It doesn't fight through contact. It doesn't get you yards after the catch. It doesn't win contested catch. Like there's a lot of things I don't like about that lineup that I think will get Cam Ward in a little bit of trouble occasionally.
Well, it depends on the concept that you have lined up. Like if they come out and run a screen to Ridley out of that formation, or a bubble to Restrepo or something, then it's different than if you're like running a 4 verts where you might have a contested jump ball scenario. But I think like that's an interesting side component of the whole receiver room. Is like there probably will be.
Yeah.
There probably will be a couple plays that have a weird set of receivers on the field for a specific purpose. And I'm just interested to see how all that shakes out. But I don't want to get too bogged down on this topic. So let's keep it moving here. Another veteran, you said you want to see Tyler Lockett out there on the field most days. Another veteran we have got to see out on the field most days is L'Jarius Sneed, who has been recovering from a quad injury for going on 9 months now. And I will be very curious to see if he is ready to be on the field with the team at the very start of training camp, if he needs like a ramp up period where he's doing individual work off to the side. How many of the practice in pads days is he a part of? Is he able to go out there and be his physical hit you at the line of scrimmage type of player from the time he steps on the field, or if again that's going to take a ramp up period? And like ultimately his availability determines so much of the ceiling of this defense and the floor, because without him the floor could drop out, especially at the cornerback position. We're one injury away from who the hell knows going out there and playing 6th round rookie Marcus Harris. Like you have no idea what you're going to get from him, or an undrafted free agent. Like there's not a lot behind the top 3 of Sneed, McCreary, and Brownlee. Obviously we feel okay about Darrell Baker, but it's not like I want to see Darrell Baker as a 17-game starter either. Like this is a guy they claimed off waivers last year.
We got a little too much Darrell Baker last year, right? Like
I'm grateful for how well he was able to play, and I'm impressed with what he did down the stretch. But it's like the more he's on the field, the more we're going to probably see him get exposed for some of the shortcomings that made him available waiver claim last year. So L'Jarius Sneed, are you practicing? Are you ready to practice? Because that I think is going to be a big storyline to track. And the reason I think it's something we track is if he's not out there on Wednesday, then we're going to be wondering every day, is today the day Sneed is out there? And Callahan's going to get questions about it. Is Sneed going to practice soon? Like, it's going to be a big deal if he's not out there on Wednesday.
If you're watching this episode on Monday, the day that it was released, we should get an answer on this on Tuesday. Like Tuesday, the report date. Again, no practice. What's going to happen? Brian Callahan, Nick Holtz, Denard Wilson, they're going to go to the podium and talk. I imagine one of the first questions after Cam Ward is going to be about L'Jarius Sneed and how much he's ready. And look, I'm not expecting this, and it better not happen. But I guess it's a possibility. If he lands on the pup, to be like full blown disaster, in my opinion. Like panic, red button, like red flag, every red term you could think of. Like I'm panicking if L'Jarius Sneed is on the pup. I don't think he will be. But you have to see him avoid it, because not to weave another, but Lloyd Cushenberry might end up on that. So that's another mini update that we'll be following here. But how much L'Jarius Sneed participates, how ready he is, really important. We've talked about it. We did a cornerback episode, obviously, about I think a week and a half ago. Big season for him. They could move on after the year, save quite a bit of money against the cap by cutting him or trading him. One of the most important storylines at training camp, how much L'Jarius Sneed is involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Lloyd Cushenberry is an honorable mention for this category as well when it comes to veterans returning from injury. And will he be a full participant from day one of training camp, or will he need time is also something to track. At least the backup there you feel is capable of holding down the fort, and we kind of know even if he's not ready to start training camp right away, like even if he's not ready for week 1 right away, we know Lloyd Cushenberry is coming back early in the season, so I'm not as worried. Whereas Sneed has been such a mystery for months that he takes precedent here.
Isn't that such a crazy statement to say? Because the guy you're more worried about is coming off a weird quad injury that's just like, and the other one's a 300-pounder coming off a torn Achilles, like literally the kiss of death for a lot of NFL players. It's just the Sneed situation has been so weird, so peculiar. And they got a lot invested in Cushenberry too, but it feels like they've got so much more invested in Sneed because they traded to get him. He got about $26 million more in contract money. And it was just so much weirder, right? Like what happened to him that, we're more concerned about the quad than we are the Achilles.
Right. All right. We got a couple more storylines I'm very interested in. And one of them we talked about on our second to last pod last week. It's what I think and what you think is the biggest battle for a starting spot on the Titans roster, and that's the inside linebacker position next to Cody Barton. So who's out there first? I think this is a storyline we'll all be tracking. Does James Williams get that first team snap of defense in a team period, the very first one? Is it James Williams next to Cody Barton? Is it Cedric Gray out there? Or is it one of the dark horses that we're not necessarily expecting in Otis Reese and Anthony Orji, somebody else? Like, I'll be very interested to track which linebackers are playing with who, how many reps they're splitting up. Like, is it an open competition where it's like one day James Williams is out there first, the next day Cedric Gray is out there first, the next day pick a name out of a hat and we're going to give him a try? Or is it like Gray and Williams are splitting first team reps on a daily basis and nobody else is getting in the mix? Like, I'm going to be tracking how this plays out because this will determine one of the starting spots on the defense.
Yeah, agreed. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we just did the linebackers episode literally days ago. But yeah, James Williams, Cedric Gray, the splitting reps there. Is one clearly the favorite or the leader in the clubhouse? Is Otis Reese healthy? Like, is he ready to go? Cedric Gray sounds healthy, but based on how disastrous last year was, like, is he healthy from the go? Does he stay healthy after 3, 4, 5 practices? Like, quite a bit to monitor here at linebacker. It's such a boring position for most, like the general public, in all honesty. Like, I would argue it might be the least important position on an NFL roster on offense or defense, right? So, but, I don't think that people care a ton about this one, but it is the biggest position battle on the Titans roster, at least in the starting lineup.
Right. I mean, you can count wide receiver in there as well, but we think this is more of a battle, and receiver would be more of a, we're surprisingly impressed by the rookies, so let's give them a better shot to play more often. Plus, I think there's more of a rotation at receiver, whereas with inside linebacker, there's some element of a rotation, but for the most part, your starters are your starters. It's closer to off. It's not quite like offensive line, but it's closer. The final storyline that I will be most interested in tracking, and there are other storylines that we're going to cover when they come up in camp, but these are the 5 biggest, is Femi Oladejo's contract is still not signed somehow, which is kind of crazy to me after the flurry of second round contract activity we finally got towards the middle and end of last week. But this is the 5th biggest storyline to me and not the first, because it's going to get done. Like, if he misses report date, he misses report date. I bet this news drops on Tuesday or Wednesday that he has signed his deal finally. I doubt he actually misses any practice time. And if he does miss any practice time, it's like 1 day maximum. I would be a lot more worried about this again if no one had signed yet, if we were still sitting at 30 of 32 second rounders unsigned. But since we've gotten so much movement on this front already, I'm like so not worried that Femi Oladejo is not going to sign his contract that I almost just wanted to throw it out there as like a thing to keep your eye on. But that notification's coming any minute, could be coming as we record this, and we'll have to do a different version of the podcast. And then, we can like sort of move on and actually talk about what we hope to see from Femi at training camp and not spend as much time on this issue because, again, I think it will be resolved in a matter of, hours or days at the most.
Well, this is still kind of silly, in my opinion, because we're sitting here on Monday afternoon, and there's 3 seconds left on the shot clock. It hasn't hit 0 yet, but like, this should get signed. He should be there for report date. Like, if it's not signed Monday evening, tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, like right before this is dumb. I'm shocked it's not done yet. I'm not going to let anyone off the hook because once that flurry of like a bunch of them around his pick, early 50s, mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s, mid 40s, like they've all signed. The precedence is now in place. What's holding it up, right? So this has to get done. It should have been done already. It better get done tonight, tomorrow morning. I'll be more disappointed than you are, it sounds like, if this is not done by early Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I guess my point is like, what is the holdup at this rate? Like the leverage for arguing for whatever percentage of guaranteed money he's arguing for, his agent, I should say, is arguing for, is like the guy who's signed closest to the pick before him and the guy who's signed closest to the pick after him. That's your range. There's a very narrow range now. There's nothing really to argue about. They're probably going to figure out some random percentage of the fourth year guarantee that's like lower than 40% and then give him a deal and sign it, and that it'll be that. So it's not that I'm not as concerned. I mean, I guess I just feel like it's going to happen and I'm not worried about it. If it doesn't happen, then like there's no excuse now for this not to just get done by training camp starting. So let's move on. Let's talk about what we hope to see from Femi Oladejo at training camp, because I do think he'll be out there sooner than later. And what I'm hoping to see is, how ready is he? Can he be a year one contributor who can get after the quarterback, or is he going to be relegated to sort of an early down run stuffing role? Is he a pass rusher that gives them juice? Is he an early down guy? Is he working behind Lorenzo Carter? Like, where's Femi Oladejo in the pecking order here? I'll be very curious to see.
Yeah, how ready is he? We know he switched positions in the middle of his senior season at UCLA, going from off-ball linebacker to edge rusher. You know, I haven't talked about this a lot. It's almost interesting that he's more ready, and I agree with you, that's why I say it, to defend the run than maybe he is to rush the passer. Because in all honesty, you know, defending the run is sometimes the more difficult part of this from a technical perspective, because it's reading, right? Reading misdirection, reading, attacking your right gaps. All that stuff can be a bit more difficult for a guy who's new to the position than it is just pinning your ears back and going to rush the quarterback. So take that maybe as a positive sign that we think he is such a developed run defender. When it comes to the pass rush side of it, well, why isn't he as developed? It's more just the technical refinement of the skill set, I would say, right? Like stringing together pass rush moves, identifying little tells on tape. Well, offensive tackle, I've talked to him and others about this, has his toe pointed in this direction. It sells past me. Like, those are the things that I think he's still going to be a work in progress for him. But the speed is there, the explosiveness is there, the length is there. A lot of moldable traits to, I think, make him a really good pass rusher. Hopefully he's working really high up in the pecking order from the get-go. But you're right, like that's not a guarantee. He could be the fourth guy working behind even a Lorenzo Carter. So definitely a storyline to monitor here.
I will say a couple little things about Femi Oladejo while we're here. Number one, this Titans regime is not shy about playing rookies, which I think is more fun as a fan, because I think Mike Vrabel was very much, and his staff was very much, you have to earn our trust. Even A.J. Brown, who had like 3 catches for 100 yards in his debut, was only playing like 30% of snaps. And it's like, okay, this guy's clearly your best player at this position on the team. Get him on the field. But this staff, I've been slowly working my way through the 2024 rewatch. And one of the first things I noticed in week 1 was like, Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is out there getting snaps in the first quarter. And I know he wasn't a starter right away, and he ended up the season being a starter. Tavondre Sweat's out there right away. J.C. Latham thrown right into the fire as your starting left tackle. Like, this staff is not shy about playing rookies that they believe can contribute. And I think that applies this year at the wide receiver position. Obviously, your starting quarterback week 1 is going to be a rookie. And you have all those receivers who, like, if they feel like they can contribute, they're not going to hold them back and be like, well, you don't know the full playbook and we can't trust you with every single little tiny thing that might pop up. So we're not going to play you at all, or we're only going to play you for 10 snaps like the way a previous staff would have done. So it also applies to Femi Oladejo in the sense that, like, they're probably going to let him go see what he does have, what he can do right away, so that they know how not to use him going forward or how much more they should be using him going forward. And then the second thing that I noticed in a little rewatch was I watched a Harold Landry sack on Caleb Williams in week 1, and Harold Landry, I'm going to tweet this at some point, but maybe I'll have already tweeted this by the time you watch this podcast. But Harold Landry starts on the edge. Jeffrey Simmons is in the interior. Jeffrey Simmons crashes hard towards Landry and eats up 3 offensive linemen are blocking Jeffrey Simmons. Harold Landry loops around inside and easily gets to Caleb Williams for a sack. He doesn't even have to beat anybody. Like, you're telling me Femi Oladejo can't do that from day one? All that takes is like a little bit of understanding of what your teammate's going to do and some athleticism to go track down the quarterback and get to him before he gets rid of the ball. Like, obviously, the back end coverage has to be good enough to give you that time. Yeah. But like, you're telling me Femi Oladejo can't get some sacks because Jeffrey Simmons is crashing into the guy that's supposed to be blocking him, and they're running some little stunts and games up front that just free him up to go like a heat-seeking missile, search and destroy? Like, I think that there's going to be more opportunity for that than maybe Titans fans realize. Like, Femi Oladejo's not going to always have to line up against an offensive tackle and beat him around the edge with a pass rush move. Like, sometimes they're going to scheme it up for him, and he's going to be the guy that's able to take advantage of those opportunities because he is athletic and he does have good instincts.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you know this, I won't spend a ton of time on it, but you can't be playing him every down or a borderline every down guy if you've got to rely on, we got to get him to a place where he doesn't have to beat anyone on this play, right? Like that.
Well, it's not every play, but it's like that was Harold Landry's first sack of the season, and it's not like he did.
My point is, you're not putting a guy out there unless you have incredible confidence that he can beat someone. I think is where I'm at with that. So, but yes, you can scheme things up and you can project, he's not going to have to beat anyone on this play because we're doing this. Like, I know that's what you mean, but there's probably a bit more hesitancy to put any guy out there that if you've got to do that with any sort of consistency, then you're probably not ready to go.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess that's what we'll find out. And that's the storyline here that we're tracking is how ready is he and how much can he contribute right away? And that's going to be huge for this Titans defense as well. So a lot of rookie talk in this episode, a lot of guys coming back from injury talk in this episode, and a roster competition starting spot up for grabs. Those seem like the biggest storylines or headlines heading into training camp to me, Justin. That'll do it for this podcast, and we will not be back tomorrow. Apologies to everyone who got very used to the daily rhythm of doing this show, but tomorrow is Justin's birthday. That's not exactly why we're not doing a pod. Happy birthday to you, my friend. Everybody in the comments, wish Justin a happy birthday. But we want to come back to actually recap a training camp practice because tomorrow, there might be some quotes we can react to, but we're not going to bank on that for a whole episode. And we'll react to those quotes on Wednesday. So we'll be back Wednesday afternoon talking podium stuff and first training camp practice. Any final words before football officially returns to our lives, Justin?
No, thank you, and appreciate the birthday wishes in the comment. I'm assuming some of you are going to wish me. It'll suck if you don't, because I've already thanked you for it. So, assuming some of you are going to wish me happy birthday in the comments. But yeah, that's not the reason we're not going to be back on Tuesday. As you said, I just want to point out, like, as exciting as it is, Tuesday will probably be the least exciting day of training camp, in all honesty, because you're not getting practice, right? Yeah, Callahan, Holtz, Wilson talking at the podium. Probably a lot of coach speak. I don't know that it'll be worth a full episode with. Whereas Wednesday, we can come back, handpick a couple of those things. There's maybe 3 to 5 things maybe that were interesting that was said on Tuesday, but really to react to practice is what I'm excited about. So we'll be back on Wednesday. It'll be like a twofer, right? We'll react to whatever was said on Tuesday, but we'll really be talking about what happened during the first practice session of the new season. The first
I have one last thing.
Training camp of the new season.
Yeah. I have one last thing to add to this podcast before we get out of here, Justin, and that's that we actually haven't talked about all 91 players on the Titans roster. We've talked about 90 of 91 because we talked about Tyrion Davis-Price, who is no longer a Titan.
You're right. They signed a running back. You're going to have to give me the name because it's already a scam. I mean...
You know what? I was scrolling looking for it, and then I decided I'm just going to say this and toss it to you because surely you know the name.
He always relies on me, folks, when it comes to the roster makeup.
Let's see here. It's got to be here somewhere.
Something
His name is Jordan Mims.
Jordan,
and I love that this is all just in the podcast. Jordan Mims, likely a special teamer only. Likely will carry the entire running game in the third preseason game,
if he's
unless
still
they
there.
give.
If he's
still there by then.
About Tyrion Davis-Price,
right. And Khalil Mullings could get mixed in there if they want to get him ready for the season or whatever. And then I think there is an honorable mention storyline I'm just going to throw out here, and that's something to watch is the roster churn. Because I bet there will be many days of training camp where Jim Wyatt tweets out, Titans have added blah, 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 and released blah, blah, blah. So-and-so has been waived. So-and-so has been added to an injured list of some kind, and so-and-so has been signed. That's a thing that's going to happen, and we'll just keep an eye on it because you never know when someone's going to be like a Darryl Baker and they actually end up contributing throughout the season. So we'll talk about all those things when they happen. All right, I think that's enough. That'll do it for this one. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. How much preseason do you think Cam Ward's going to play? I want to start dinging Melo for more Meloisms. So if you guys have any that you can think of, drop them in the comments below. Nice Meloisms.
After wishing me happy birthday, do that. Don't you dare give Graver material before you wish me happy birthday.
Yeah, say happy birthday, Melo. I love it when you say blank, or I love it when you always blank. You know, that would be perfect for us. So thank you. And thanks again to Sinkers Beverages. Remember to check the link in the description to get your tickets to Sinkers' 40th birthday jamboree on Saturday, August 9th. All right, we'll be back on Wednesday recapping a training camp practice, actual football. Can't wait until then. Y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.